Hello, welcome back to this channel. Hi, I'm Maria. I make beaded jewelry in my free time, and this channel is all about beading and my small handmade business. And today it is time for another tutorial. This time for my Simin earrings. They are also relatively small earrings. So here you can see a collection of all the available earrings in my shop right now. You can see that I have many different colors available, and they are all made with galvanized glass cube beads. But of course you don't have to use glass, you can also use stone beads or ceramic beads, whatever floats your boat. And I would even say that they are easier to make than the very first tutorial I uploaded for my flower earrings. This is a super beginner-friendly project, and if you want to try out beading, I think this is a good design for you to start out. It is easy to make, but the beads I use are not that common, so you will have to decide whether you want to buy these beads to try this one out. I personally like to use brass supplies for these earrings, but of course it's your free choice whether you want to use maybe just gold or silver colored metal parts, or gold filled or sterling silver. That's really your decision. I work with brass supplies today. And I think we should jump right in. Let's check out which beading supplies you will need for this. We will need 2 brass bindings with a diameter of 14 millimeters, 2 earring hooks, cube beads of your chosen color. These are about 2 millimeters long per side, so 2 times 2 times 2. Then you need 15 O's. I use the Miyuki brand, 11 O demi rounds of the brand Toho, and 8 O demi rounds, also Toho. And of course we need some beading thread. This is the Miyuki brand beading thread in size B, which means 0.2 millimeters in diameter. It's a nylon thread. So you see, it's really not much that we need. We have the cube beads, 15 O's, 11 O demi rounds and 8 O demi rounds. You can choose whatever color you want. And of course you can also switch these beads up. But I like to keep it simple because the galvanized cube beads are pretty sparkly already, so I don't want to combine too many colors with these. You don't really need any specific knowledge about basic beading techniques, I would say. Just follow along what I'm doing and what I'm showing and you'll be fine. We need about an arm length of thread, probably about 70 centimeters. This thread is already preconditioned, so I don't need to wax it. And I start by tying a double knot. You only need a short tail thread. And then you just thread your needle. We start beading this earring by what I call a modified brick stitch, because it's not the normal basic brick stitch that you usually see. I also like to call it freestyle. I have no idea. It's probably, again, not the right term. If this technique has a specific term, then I would love to hear from you, so let me know. But I will show you what I mean. First we will go around this finding and place one row of cube beads and 15 O's. For this I take up one cube bead, 3 15 O's, and another cube bead, push it down to the finding, and you go from the back to the front up, and then you pull your thread through the last cube bead and 1 15 O. And this is what I mean by freestyle brick stitch, because usually you use an even count of beads for the start of your brick stitch, but I modify it by placing beads in between. So if this has a specific name, please let me know. And then we continue with freestyle brick stitch. I take up 2 15 O's and another cube bead, push it down, go from back to the front through the last cube bead and 15 O. And then it looks like this. We continue doing this until almost the whole finding has a row of cube beads and 15 O's on top. I leave a little space and I just try to distribute the beads evenly around the finding, because if we put another bead in there, it could be too little space, and also we need enough space on top of these beads to place the demi-rounds. So just try to push the beads together . Like this, you see? And then you take up 1 15 O and we connect both the first and the last bead, cube bead, I mean. For this, we go through the very first 15 O and cube bead, again to the back of the finding, and to the front, push it closer together, and then back up through the very first cube bead and 15 O. And there we have our first row. Now we will add the demi-rounds. For this, you need to go through the next 15 O on the right hand side of the 15 O you're coming out of with your thread. And now you start with the second row of beads. You take up one 11-0, an 8-0 and an 11-0. And to add these beads, you need to go through the next 15-0 that hangs loosely on the thread bridge on the right hand side. So that your demi rounds are placed right on top of a cube bead and a 15-0. And then you continue 11-0, 8-0, 11-0. Pass through the next 15-0 on the right hand side, right on the thread bridge. And pull tight. Always pull out the 8 O's a little bit so that they sit a little higher than the 11 O's. Because we don't have any space in here to place an earring hook, I will now make a bead bridge which will pass over this 15-0 and will go through the next 15-0 after that. And for this I will take up one 8-0, one 11-0, three 15-0s, one 11-0 and another 8-0. And then I will go right through this 15-0, so the second one on the right hand side, from where you're coming out of. And now you have a bead bridge where you can add your earring hook when you're all done. And then you continue adding the demi rounds. Now the second row of beads is complete, but we are not quite finished yet because we need to go around another time because we want to make sure that the larger 8-0s form proper tips. And for this we need to go again through all of the 11-0s and the 15-0s, but skip the 8-0s so that the thread bridge underneath the 8-0 will push it out. So we're coming out of the 15-0 because we added the last group of demi rounds, and now you go through the next 11-0, you skip the 8-0 and you push your needle through both the next 11-0 and 15-0. You pull out the 8-0, pull tight, and you've got a tip. And now you go around the whole finding, and you do this with all the demi rounds. So as you can see, all of these 8 O's are a little higher than the ones down below where they're not being pushed out yet. We are at the bead bridge for the earring hook and we pass through all of the beads. So 8O, 11O, 3 15Os, 11O and 8O, and then we just continue on. Now all the tips were pulled out and it's time to place knots. So what I usually do is I place a knot between a 15O and an 11O, so that I then can go through the 11O and pull the knot into the 11O. This is such a place. We have a 15O and an 11O, and then I make a double knot. Make sure that you pull your knot right between those two beads. Then you pass through the 11O. And you pull tight. And now I place another 2 knots just the same way. You skip the 8O again. And then you place another knot between the 15O and the 11O. When you've made your 3rd knot, you will go through the next 11O and 15O. And then you go down to the finding through the 15O and the cube bead. And then you can cut your thread. Then you thread your tail thread and you repeat this again. You go up through the cube bead where you tied the very first double knot and the 15O, of course. And then I place 1 double knot because I think that's enough. Always make sure that you are not trying to place another double knot where you already passed through and tied knots. So always go in the opposite direction of where you put all the knots with your working thread. And then you go back down through the 15O and the cube bead. Next, you add the earring hook. Take your pliers and bend the wire open to the side. And then you push it in between your beaded bridge and the cube beads. And that's your first earring. And now you can explore all kinds of color combinations. So as you can see, this beaded earring design really is very beginner friendly and super easy to make. And I think they are very pretty. If you try out this design, please let me know. You can also share your creations on Instagram, and I would love it if you would use a certain hashtag for it. And that's going to be hashtag inspired _ by _ baffling beads, like this on the screen, so that I can see your creations if you decide to post them publicly. I've only ever done them with glass cube beads, but I would love to see whether you decide to use stone beads or ceramic beads or whatever else you have in mind. I'm super curious. And yeah, that's the tutorial of this month. I would love to make a tutorial about basic beading techniques like brick stitch, because I have certain terms that I will use in the future, just so that you know what I mean and so that we can be on the same page if you watch that tutorial, of course. And I don't want to count it as a design tutorial because it's just basic stitches, and I consider this to be a bonus. So I hope that I find the time to make this also in February. I would love to hear whether you would find this helpful, even though you already know how a brick stitch works, but I think most beaders have their own little tricks and tips to make it work best, and others then can decide whether they also want to go this route or just continue the way they were beading before, you know? Okay, so that's that. I've already put my earrings on. They're pretty small but very sparkly. Oh, they're very fun, I find. For now, that's all. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe. That would be awesome. If you're not interested in my other content like studio vlogs or basic beading techniques, I very much hope to see you again in the next design tutorial in March. So have a good time, see ya, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.